Thank you very much. Thanks. Oh, people are standing up already. That's fantastic. That's good. Okay, when I go to a new country and I give a talk, I like to say hello in the local language. So there are two ways, I gather, to say hello in the local language. So let me give the first one. Perfect. It's because I had so much Russian today. I had to do it. And the other one is Zdrastia. How many people here from Russia here today? Okay, and Portugal? Great, fantastic. How many of you are project managers? Okay, great. And you work in a team where there's a project manager? How many work in a team where there is a project manager? All right, that's good, good. So, I'm going to give a talk here. It's a very simple idea that I'm going to get across. And I explain the idea, I introduce it, and then I give you examples based on that idea. I reinforce it, and I reinforce it again. That's what I do a couple of times, just to make sure that you get away with it. And I think I have about 10 minutes also at the end. I will let you off early, because on good behavior, I will let you off early, on something to do with open source project management as well, because that's my life, that's what I do, that's what I live for. All right, great. So, towards the very end as well, we have a poll to do. So I'll give you a Q code. You can click on it and give me feedback on whether you like the idea or not that I'm presenting to you, or whether you think actually, not whether you like it, but whether you think it adds value and you can use it in your organization. That's very important. I did a talk for about 200 people in August, and this was the feedback that I got. So let me explain it to you. 0% said they didn't like it, which is, they should have been a bit higher. Maybe they just didn't want to make me cry, or didn't want to insult me, so nobody voted. But that should be a little bit higher than that. Then the next one, 12% said, this idea that I'm presenting will not work in my organization. I like it, but it won't work. So I will explain that as well, why it doesn't work in their organization. 63% said, it may work in my organization, and the prize, of course, at the end was 25% says I will start using it immediately. Okay, so overall, I got over 75% who's going to give it a go. Okay, I did a second poll recently as well. This is better. 64% said it may work in my organization, and 35% was to start using the idea immediately. Okay, there was no other results then based on that. Right. So, about me. Have any of you heard of something called Team Squared? Okay. Oh, one person. This is a methodology developed in the European Union itself, in the EC, and they use it to run projects. So I'm on the exam board for this. I've been involved with it, and I worked on this a couple of years ago. I'm a member of PMI Belgium. You probably know what PMI is. It's the American chapters. They have a chapter in most countries, and we meet every month, and we eat chocolate and drink beer, and it's really good and discuss project management. I'm also a well-known Prince 2 trainer, probably the best known for Prince 2 trainer in Europe, and I'm not that big-headed either. And I work with open source project management as well. So I delegate a lot of my time. Great. Now I'm going to give you some background on what a peer review actually is. So, what is a peer review? This is a very, very simple explanation. You can get it from ChatGPT, or you can get it from the internet. It's when people with similar skills check each other's work. It's a very simple idea, and sometimes we forget about it. It's a lot, or it turns out a lot to happen maybe in development, but maybe not so in project management. And that's the big idea I want to get across here. So, why carry out a peer review? So, the reason we should carry out a peer review is to maintain quality standards, improve performance, and provide credibility. So you guys work mostly in development. So as a developer or development team, and as a project manager for development, you're actually improving the standards of the way that you're working and coding. You're improving the performance of your team, and you're providing credibility to whoever you are creating these products for. Okay, that's what you're trying to do, which can work out great. So what other professions are using peer reviews? As I kind of mentioned, it's been around for a lot of years. Actually, the very first mention of something like a peer review dates back to about 800 AD in a medical document somewhere in the Middle East based on Greek text, where it mentions that for certain kind of operations, it's good to have a peer review for this to make sure that everything goes okay and you can learn from this. But then again, since then, of course, we've added it to accounting, law, engineering, software development, peer reviews, aviation and writing, but for some reason, I don't know why, we have skipped project management completely. Okay? So there's a real opportunity here to do some good stuff, and you can see the advantages. I'm going to share the advantages of doing that with you. Good. Great. So, I'm going to share some little background here, examples. Have you ever checked something and rechecked it and rechecked it again, and everything is perfect, and you give it to your boss, and within 10 seconds, they said you forgot this? It happens to everybody, because everybody makes mistakes, except for me. I never make mistakes. I've only got one problem. I lie a little bit, Besides that, I never make mistakes. Good. So that happens. So a peer review would stop this, would catch most of the issues, or most of the items there. And that's good. That's a common one. Second example, let's say we have an author. So no matter how good an author is, Stephen King or any other author, a publisher will never allow them to write something and go immediately to publication. They will always get it checked by somebody from that domain to make sure the story fits, to make sure all the characters are coming together, and then only after that, then it goes for proofreading, and then it can go to publishing. So that's normal. And can you imagine this in the Bible? So for example here, if a man wears long hair, it is a disgrace for him. This is Corinthians. So if there was some peer reviews here, then maybe this wouldn't have happened, which is terrible. Hopefully, I haven't upset anybody with that. Great. And the last one is, anybody know this guy here? Yeah? Who is he? Well, his name is there, but what does he do? What's his reason for living?
He's a national
coach. Yeah, David Southgate. Yeah. I'm Irish, so we live next door to England. We don't have nice neighbours, So they're a bit rowdy at times, and they take a bit of our land. So he's most famous for losing the penalty which got England kicked out of the World Cup. So in Ireland, we like him a lot. You see, he's great. But he's been around the football since he started playing. He was on the national team, and then he went into management. And his first big team to manage was the Premiership team Aston Villa. So he came down one morning, and he had the team laid out on a sheet of paper, maybe like so. And he said it to his wife. He said, "Honey, look, that's my team for today." And she looked at this, and she went, "Gareth, you forgot to mention the goalkeeper." So it can happen to us all. Peer reviews are great, and they do work, and we need them all the time. Now, when should we do peer reviews? How often? I just had a chat with somebody a while ago. I won't mention the person's name, but they said that they're interested in coming to the talk because recently they could see that they did a retrospective after many, many months, and they learned a lot. But the issue, as this lady knows, is that a retrospective can take a long time to happen, so we need information a bit quicker than that. Right. Now, which process? I'm going to base it on a framework. Which framework am I going to actually use? PM-Book, Prince2, or something called P3 Express. I'll use this because it's a bit more agile and you'll get to understand it better. There's a nicer flow in the way that it works. So, our first peer review is in project initiation. Okay, and the startup of the project, or near the startup. And so why is it there, and what happens before, and what happens after we should do a peer review? Well, over here we have defined what the project will look like as best we can. We've created a plan, we've broken down the project, examined the risks, and then we'll go up to here to the sponsor for a go or no go. So this is the perfect time here for our first big peer review. Okay? And because of software development, of course, our definition of what's coming is not in detail because we're looking if we have 25% of the requirements here. But that's a good place to do our first review. Then, when do we do the next reviews? Next reviews are on a monthly cycle. Yeah. So we have our initiation, then we move into monthly cycles and we carry out the project for monthly cycles. And there in the red is we do it. So we break down the project, we plan for the month, and before then we decide, okay, get an agreement, we go back up to the sponsor. Before we go to the sponsor, that's where we do our peer review as well. So we do it at the beginning and we do it on a monthly cycle as well. Okay? So by catching it on a monthly cycle, that's where we learn the most and we grow the most, or the project manager can grow the most as well. And then at the very end of the project, we are closing out to make sure basically that everything is handed over correctly. Because the biggest part of the projects, as you probably know, is that projects can continue for a long time without dying correctly. So they should be closed down. But we want to make sure that we have a final peer review to make sure that everything is okay there. Okay, so that's an overview of the frequency why it happens. Now, common pitfall when people are trying to do this is that they use the same project manager all the time. That's not a good idea. You've got to learn, you've got to bring in as many different project managers, because the more people you get feedback from, the more you can learn. And the more that they learn as well. Okay? And actually, peer reviews goes both ways. I'll explain this in a moment. I'm jumping ahead. Some people as well may be a bit shy. They might be too nice to you. It happens to me, I'm just too nice to people. I will not point out problems. No, I will point out problems. So get them to open up and get them to say, if you see something, discuss it. Tell me about it. I need to know. I need to catch these problems. And some of them may have the wrong attitude by coming in thinking that they know everything. And they say, oh yeah, you do not know, you do not know. So just remind them that don't be an asshole or don't be a dick. Be humble. And remind them to go into discovery mode when they're doing a peer review, because they're going to learn something when they do that. Okay? Great. Lessons learned. Lessons learned are great. They're super, and in every project methodology you'll find a big chapter or a big section on lessons learned. So what's the difference between lessons learned and peer reviews? Well, lessons learned are popular. The issue I have with lessons learned is mostly the mistakes must be made first. Okay? Peer reviews is more like just in time. You catch the error before you make it. You correct it. That's why I like it just in time, like just in time manufacturing. And together, if you put lessons, if you still use lessons learned and you use peer reviews, you've got two great ways of creating and keeping knowledge. Really lift the team and lift the knowledge in the team and the organization. It just changes our perception on things. Right. I mentioned at the beginning unsuitable environments. Remember that 15% that said they would not work in my organization? I will tell you why. I had the pleasure of working for an organization which had a dictator of a CEO of the company. He was there for about 2 years before I joined as a freelance project manager, and he was there for about a year after I left. In his time of running the company, he has to shout at people all the time. He'd have a board meeting and he would just pick out one of the board directors and just go for him. And then when anything would go wrong, he would demand to speak to the person responsible and just shout at him again. In that kind of an environment, what happens? All the good people leave. All the people who are afraid to do anything stay. Everyone says yes, and nobody opens up to a problem or an error. So a peer review would never work in an organization like that. Would never work. So that's a good example of that. Also, sometimes stands for micromanagers. Micromanagers and leaders. I don't know if you've ever worked for this, but I feel sorry for you if you do. If you ever work for a micromanager, where they are coming down and they're checking on a task-by-task basis, or you see this happening in your organization. But being open for peer reviews would never work if that person somehow exists above you in the organization. What's the difference between a micromanager and a manager? Sorry, yeah. No, leadership. I'll come back to that later. That's a good idea. Great. So, some advantages of peer reviews. First one is sharing of knowledge. That's the biggest impact we can have here. Because someone's coming in, you're giving them permission, you're asking them to do a peer review on you, and there is knowledge being shared. But this knowledge is going in both ways. Because they're going to see something that you've done, which they can copy for the future or take in from the future for themselves. And you're going to give them feedback as well, which they can use right now in their project. And that's key. And it teaches everyone to have an open mindset, to be open to the idea of learning. It's okay. You don't need to cover up all your homework and let no one look at it. You can be open about your mistakes. That's key. Secondly is quality management systems. Now, in some companies, quality management is really important, especially if you're producing products that have to go out into the field and last 15, 20, 25 years. And you'd have people from the quality department running around with clipboards, checking everybody's work. And when people see them coming, they hide or they lie to them, or they don't tell them the truth, or they say, I got to go for a coffee, and so on. They disappear. And that doesn't work very well. What happens if you kind of get rid of these guys for a couple of days and you do the following? You let the other project managers remind people of the standards that should be met. They will teach each other. Oops, I'm still not used to this. So, what happens is the product managers become unpaid quality managers as well. Because they're doing it all the time. They're reminding people because they want to help. And we start, this will in turn improve overall project performance. And we've started our own continual improvement cycle here. And this repeats and repeats and repeats. And we end up with something like a flywheel. There's a very good monograph book from Jim Collins. He's a famous author for business and realizing how businesses work together and how they thrive and how the success of business actually work. And one of the big concepts he came up with is the idea of the flywheel. And that's great. That can work well for him. Okay. Good. For new project managers, so if you bring in a new project manager into a company, that person can be nervous. Of course, they probably want to hide what they don't know, and they'll be a bit secretive, and maybe they won't be that open as normal. But if you get them, if you ask them, hey, John, you joined last week, come with me, I'm doing a peer review of this project over here, bring them along with you, and they see that, and know what's happening, and they see you giving feedback, and the other person, the mature project manager, is accepting this feedback, and that'll be great. So they can join in a peer review. They get fully absorbed with the culture of the organization, which is what you want, and it increases faster learning and also competence as well. So what's going to happen to them? They're going to be a lot more open about feedback, getting feedback for themselves. And they'll participate in their own peer reviews and be open to asking other people much quicker to give them peer reviews as well. Right, all of this together, so the three big points I'm getting across: learning, quality standards, new project managers, all bring one big thing. And I sum that up into something I refer to as culture here. It improves the whole culture of the whole organization, your part of the organization where you are working in. And we see here that people are supporting each other constantly. They're looking out for each other. Everyone's attitude changes, and there's less blame. I like the term jealous-free zone. I saw a presentation once done on the Olympic Dream Team from the US, where you got all these famous individuals working together. You try to put them into one basketball team. Everybody's concerned about their own image, and the biggest task that the manager or the trainer had was to try to get them to work together. It was almost an impossible task. But he created this jealous-free zone. He made them work together, and then of course, well, I know what happened. They got gold. Okay? But his biggest problem was getting them to work together and see them together in a team. Good. So, how many of you practice peer reviews? How many of you have seen something like this? Okay. No problem. There are some questions to ask. Now, we give, as part of P3 Express, of the open source community of P3 Express, we actually suggest some questions. These are just suggestions. People should customize and change these, but I'll just give you some ideas on how to do these. So, there are three groups of questions. One for initiation. That's only one. Then we do monthly initiation that repeats, and then at the very end of the project, we do project closure. So let me show you the questions for monthly initiation. So reminder, it's here. Before our no-go, we've broken down the project as much as we can. And here we ask the person to come in and give a peer review. So once a sponsor appointed at the beginning of the project, and we can mark it 1 to 10 and add further comments if it's needed. I'll just give you a couple here. Does the sponsor avoid getting involved in detail, or are they micromanaging? You can rate them 1 to 10. Was the project manager appointed from the beginning, or given the project late because it was thrown over a wall? That will be dangerous for the project, of course, and so on. So again, these are just suggestions. You can modify these to suit yourself, but these are good, let's say, handrails for people when they're giving a peer review, because without them, they may not know what to ask or what to follow up on. So it's good to have guidelines, and these are the best way of gathering the guidelines. Okay, that's the question. I won't do an exercise here. I have a question for you in general. What is the most important skill for a project manager? Do you think? Now, I keep changing my answer for this, so my answer is not even correct. Perhaps. You don't have to agree. But I will explain my answer and explain why it's an answer. And then you can choose to agree with me or not. Yes. Okay, that's good. Keep a general picture of the project in mind. Many people would say communication. But communication is about 80% of what the project manager does. And the rest is probably talking to people. That's too general. Then I changed it to facilitation. Because that's really what a project manager does. They facilitate. They facilitate the whole project. They're not responsible for the project. They facilitate the project and try to bring it to a successful end. But then if you ask, so actually put it this way, communication. What's the most important part of communication? Facilitation. Okay, what's the most important part of facilitation? And that's what I want to get to. For me, the most important part of facilitation is asking good questions. And then keeping your mouth closed, which I find hard to do, and then waiting for people to answer. Because that's the way you engage. It's good. So that's for me. Of course, other people would say it. There's a very good TED talk by this guy called Mike Vaughan. If you ever want to watch it, it's fully on learning to ask right questions. Okay? And keep improving. This is something you do over time. It takes 15 minutes. You can have 2 coffees and a bun, or a little Portuguese custard tart, while watching it, and you will enjoy it. Voltaire, judge a man by his questions rather than his answers. A nice quote. Okay, good. Now I'm going to move on to monthly reviews, what we do here. So a reminder when we do them, so we find our plan for the month, we've broken it down, we've figured out what we want to do, deliver, what we can deliver, or what we think is possible to deliver, and we do a monthly we do a peer review here to check to see is everything okay. So this is what we say. The way this table is organized is you've got month 1, 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, and you can ask these questions. So is the plan for the upcoming month, is it organized? Is it broken down, refined correctly? Is the high-level plan up to date? That should be done. Is the customer satisfaction evaluation properly done? This is something very specific to P3 Express because each month you're supposed to engage the customer or the users and get this feedback and learn from this as well. It provides an important input for growing the project, so that's why that is there. Is the team satisfaction? So you don't just ask your stakeholders, your outside stakeholders, you look internally as well to make sure that the team is correct. So that's just some guidelines there. Okay, great. And the last one is project closure. We'll just have a look at these as well. So again, when we do this, stakeholder evaluation is our last task before this one here, the peer review, and then before we start archiving all the project documents. So is the product approved and handed over, what we're trying to actually do? In the case of remaining activities, are the query listed and approved? I'll just read one more. Is the customer satisfaction evaluated and recorded? That's the last one. So again, these are just suggestions for questions you can ask at specific points, and it's up to each project and each project environment to customize these and create your own checklist of questions. Okay, good. Review summary. So, your takeaway, if anybody asks you what this talk was about, you can just give one slide or take a picture of it. So what is a peer review? It's evaluation of work by somebody with similar competences. And remember that you can do an evaluation of them as well. It's not just they evaluating you. It always works both ways. You get a chance to give your peer review on their projects in the future. The advantages are it improves learning. It's great for improving internal quality and raising the standards of what you're trying to do in your projects. And lastly, it's fantastic for new project managers. And these three items coming together have a very, very nice effect in improving the overall culture of the team. That's the main point I want to get across today. Now, I've added about some slides extra because I want to bring you through something else, but that's the main discussion I want to get through. Anybody have any questions on this before I move ahead? Or did I explain it so well that you understand it? I did good, then. Okay, super. So, these are just one more items I want to get across with you here. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot this slide here. Peer reviews are not just for project managers, they're for any other kind of role you can have in the project. So, it's up to you to figure out if peer reviews can also be applied to these. But because I'm focused on project management, I talk about project management all the time and dream about project management, that's why I get it across. You want a question? It can be over a coffee, sure, you explain to somebody what you're doing. Yeah? Informal. Well, I suppose it depends on the type of project, but mostly informal. It should be informal. You don't look convinced, do you? Your face looks puzzled. Yeah, they come in and they ask you what you're doing. You show them what you're doing, you discuss with them where you are, you show them your plan, they will ask certain questions. Hopefully they've done it before so they can learn from this. If they don't, you say, well, these are the list of questions you might want to go through. You can ask me these and let's go through them together and make sure that you understand this. That's the best way to do it. Yeah. One common question I get is, what happens if there's not enough project managers inside of my organization? So there's only 2 other project managers, then who else can I ask? Okay, well, look outside. You have a huge network. You can talk to somebody over a Zoom call and give them an overview of your project. Find people on LinkedIn. Find people at a conference like this and get feedback. It's a good way. Because they will learn as well. So you actually do them a favor by asking them to do a peer review of you. And if you want, you can have a second person doing it as well. Not at the same time, but 2 different times. So be open for it. Anybody else? Please. You live in Germany. I feel sorry for you.
Somehow people sometimes shy away from honest review, which is from my experience with but what to do like this to convince organizations, especially more traditional ones, to do this more often and not to work care people instead of people rather just to put all the people around them.
Yeah. That's where we talk about the culture. So the question was, some people are shy and some organizations are shy and you just can't promote this. You may talk about it, but you may not get the ball rolling and it may be hard to do it. I don't have a direct answer for that, but I will give it a go. Okay? So I used to try to say to project managers that they should have a monthly day where project managers stand up and they have how I fucked up day. So each person would talk for 5 minutes, each project manager, and they would say, "Here, these are the mistakes I made in the last month." Okay? But that didn't catch on because people are very afraid of being recorded and being known for screwing up. That just doesn't work. I even did a talk at PMI. I did it 3 years in a row at PMI. Every year we had like a conference, and I organized an event, like a workshop, where I asked project managers to come in and admit this for 5 minutes to give a talk on how they screwed up. And it was difficult to find people. You really have to say, you can make it up, it's okay, it's fine. I don't want to be known for making a mistake. It's okay, come on and just make it up. Borrow his mistake and pretend it's yours, and then you won't be associated. But you're right, so it does happen. And you just have to keep reminding people that it's okay and be open up. If anybody has a suggestion, please, oh God, what's coming now? Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, now say something more interesting since you have the microphone.
Yeah, maybe should I repeat?
Yes, please do that.
So, what I usually do is I tell the person that I really love what I've done. I'm very happy about it, but I think there is one thing wrong about it, and I can't find out why. Can you help me find that? And then the person becomes more comfortable because they know I won't be disappointed when they say that there's something wrong. They're actually helping.
Yeah. I'm involved with something called Toastmasters. Have any ever heard of Toastmasters? It's a volunteer public speaking organization. And believe me, 10 years ago I would not stand up and even talk in front of my mom. I would be afraid. And now I talk regularly at talks and do master ceremonies and stuff, so that's great. But when you give a talk, you're always looking for feedback on how to improve. And some people said, "Oh, you did good, you did good, you did good." But there's one question you can always ask, which demands a response. You can go, "Okay, give me one item of improvement. Just give me one. So focus in maybe on one item of improvement to start with, and then the next time it's 2 and 3 and so on. Yeah. Don't let them away with it. I want one feedback. Okay? Please, Margarita.
At my organization, we have a platform called Lipsam where people actually are able to give feedback. So you have a certain amount of items, for example, productivity, capability of asking questions, organization, and you can write something about it, or just use, for example, a slider that describes how a person is good about it. Now, there's a method called the sandwich method, where you give a compliment and a critique in the middle. So that's a way to, and also just teach people to give feedback. At my company, I have a lot of workshops on feedback, and overall, the company's feedback has been growing really well, actually, for the past few years. So it's a way to implement on people.
Thank you. Okay, I think you've got a couple more minutes. Can you take out your phones and take a picture of me if you want? Or otherwise, you can look at this Q code and answer these 4 questions. So you have to give me feedback, and I will publish it later. What do you think this idea of a peer review for project management is not a good idea? If so, just say so. You don't have to be nice. So be critical. It's a good idea, but it'll never work in my organization. It's a good idea. This may work in my organization. And it's a great idea, and I will start using this immediately. And we will start using it immediately. That's a QR code. Hopefully it works. I'm sure it does. Just checked it half an hour ago. Thank you.
Yeah, but actually we have some time, some extra. Can I ask
another
question? I'm wondering how, I see that it works good when you have project managers. We don't have such a nice person, so we need to deal with this on our own. Do you have any advice on how to adapt it to product managers when you don't have any projects? So you need to lead all the projects by your own.
Yeah, every second person I meet here is a product manager, senior product manager. I'm sure it's the same system. So That's how other product managers can actually come in, and the timing of this as well, that can come in to the project. Now, I don't really know much about product management, but is it, when you are the product manager, do you assume some project management responsibilities, or do you have people doing project management which report to you, and then the teams, or do you talk directly to your teams? How do you work?
So when you have no project managers, you need to deal with it by your own. So you need to kick off the project and you need to run it and maintain.
Okay. Then another product manager can come in and give you feedback. It can work in the very same way. Yeah. But we can discuss that later, but definitely. That's a good idea of using peer review in another section as well. Right. Tomorrow, just want to mention, tomorrow there is a talk. Nada, what time do you want it tomorrow? Talk? At 1 o'clock. Okay. So this is an overview of what I'm trying to do as well. We're involved in what we call Petri Express. It's open source project management, and this is a micro Petri Express for smaller teams. And Nada's talk will be focused on this tomorrow also. So you can get more information on that open methodology if you wish. All right. And that's it from me, actually. Thank you very much for joining.
Any more questions for Frank? Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.